Whereabouts are you at the moment?
In Cronulla in Sydney.
Okay. Is that local for you? Is that where you
Yeah. I grew up on the Northern Beaches, but I have a teenager now, freshly minted teenager. So since he was born, I've been in Cronulla.
man, I'm gonna my eldest will be ticking over teenagerville in about 3 years. Have you got any tips?
Oh, bro, nah. I think it all goes out the window. I think every tip. I've been trying to gather tips for all the years leading up to it, and I think they all just don't. I think every case is different, and then as soon as you think you got an answer, it just slaps you back in the face. So no, I think you just got to strap in. Just, just
Yep,
white knuckle it.
I know, right? Um, Mate, is the reason you insist in going audio interviews so that people won't find out you're not actually a beautiful girl? Because I think that ship has sailed, mate.
Yeah, no, man. To be honest, I'm just kind of sick of seeing every muso's head pop up online talking about themselves. I've tried to pull back from it a bit. I don't mind. I just wanted the focus to just be on listening to the music and talking about music, and I'm just burnt out on seeing musicians' heads online. So I just feel like I'm not. I, if that's my feeling, I probably shouldn't contribute.
Well, and it always looks so awful over Zoom. Now, look, I love being able to see people. It's weird for me to not these days, but there is something to be. You bang on there. Every single one
Oh
of these interviews just looks terrible, and it's there just unflattering, just donut.
yeah, yeah, and I feel like since COVID happened, out of necessity, I'd say a lot of the kind of people that I know and don't know, a lot of musos just kind of like started popping up and doing online, pseudo concerts, online shows, and this, that, and the other, and it just kind of got like the whole thing changed into people just kind of seeming like they were just crying for attention. And I'm always on this weird balancing act. Like I'm the kind of person who doesn't want attention at all. I hate talking about myself, and I hate, um, I just don't feel comfortable around any of that stuff. I actually don't even feel that comfortable on stage. But I love
Yeah,
music,
wow.
and yeah, I love music, and I take it as a side effect of that. I want to share the music, and I love playing music, and anything that I have to go through that. Enables me to do so, then I'll do it. But like the
Hmm.
whole the whole yeah the whole thing happened accidentally for me. I never aspired to have myself be put out there. So now wherever I can, I just kind of pull back from it and just try to put the focus on music.
I feel like the collapse of the recording industry as we once knew it must have really sucked for you because back in the day you could just have a record label to do all the promotion and stuff for you. Now everyone's got to be a master of self promotion, which, given what you just said, sounds like that'd be unpleasant.
Yeah, well, ironically, we never had a label. We've just done it. We've from the start been as staunchly independent as you can get.
Really?
Yeah. Our first record that we put out officially was just a demo tape that we recorded in for $300 in 3 hours, and went on and sold like 100,000 copies of it. And we just used the money and made more records. And I've never had assistance from a label or marketing budget ever in our lives. But yeah, the thing that worked and has always worked, and I guess it's kind of like, it's why I approach it the way I approach it. It always just was word of mouth.
Hmm.
It was probably pre social media, really, but a lot of people, they took our songs and put them on skate videos or surf videos and shared them around. And the thing that led the whole thing was just the music. And I feel like if people liked it, it was because they liked it. That wasn't forced down their throat by a label with a big marketing budget. We didn't have any airbrush photos where we looked cute or anything. It was
Hmm.
nobody even knew what we looked like. It was just kind of, hey, I like this song and I'm going to play it to a friend. And I still think that maybe it probably is a bit of an old school approach nowadays, but I really like that because I like discovering music like that myself. If if I see a muso online waving their arms up and down and kind of gesticulating to for me to look at them, then I'm less inclined to, cross that threshold into their artistic world. It just kind of repels me a little bit. So yeah, I still prefer discovering stuff the old-fashioned way, and I don't want to know what Bob Dylan looks like in the morning just after he's rolled out of bed, or I like a bit of mystery, and I just like music for music's sake. I don't subscribe to anything else beyond that, really.
Oh, fair, okay. Now, so for a bit of context, so I was first a music journalist. I grew up in Tassie, and I was first a music journalist between '05 and '08. Now, you might remember from around that time that in the mid 2000s, Australia had roughly 3.5 billion singer-songwriters, and I think I interviewed all of them. You and I have probably spoken, and we just can't remember. Um,
Yeah, well, there's a good chance of it.
yeah, yeah. Mate, what was the vibe like in the music industry at the time? Because thinking back, man, there was like, it was, I don't mean to insult it by calling it a flavor of the month, but that was a very, that was a very big sound at the time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it. So this record that we're touring to to celebrate, I guess, is kind of a reaction to exactly that time and that feeling, because I feel like initially most of us, like, I had toiled in band, not toiled, that's a ridiculous word. I played in bands for my whole life. I started in my school band when I was 6 years old, like I just always played music for fun. And then, I was in kind of punk rock bands and heavy stoner rock bands and all kinds of stuff just for fun with your friends. And then I was studying design, and we played an open mic night, again for fun, and our demo tape found its way onto the radio. The whole scene was blowing up at the time, so we got swept up in the scene of what was that kind of sound, that rootsy, surfy singer songwriter right at the start of it.
Mm,
And then all of a sudden we were on tour, and that had never even been a wildest dream. And then not only on tour, every show was selling out, and it was like, it was a bit of a cross between a pinch me moment and oh, this is horrifying.
mm,
And then the second record, I guess, kind of wanted to put more coals on that fire, because it's like once you have that, you're like, oh man, I want some more of this. Beats working in the factory or studying or whatever. And then by the time this record, which is record number 3, came around, I was off it. I was so over it. It just became so stereotypical, and like every dude was starting to dress the same and sound the same, and play the same guitars. And I still see remnants of it now. You just walk down the street in Byron Bay and you see it. And I kind of just said, man, I don't, I don't want to be a part of any club that'll have me, to paraphrase Groucho Marx, I think. And just made a record. I'm like, listen, I've been afforded this position where people are actually listening. I'm just going to make a record that I want to make. And if that's the full stop on the whole thing, then so be it. I don't want to play that game anymore. And then so that's the advent of this album, I guess, was just trying to like free ourselves stylistically and spiritually from those kind of shackles that we'd created for ourselves.
like revisiting this album for these shows, like going back and, maybe rehearsing deep cuts that you maybe never performed live.
Why are we?
Sorry, I was sorry. The what was it like revisiting this album, and just really getting, learning how to play? Because I imagine, are there tracks on this album that never got played live until now?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
certainly is.
What
There's
was that like?
probably a third at least. It was it was tricky because they don't get played for a reason. Like when a record comes out, you want to play the whole thing, but some things they're either hard to play, or they don't translate, or they don't kind of like fit. They're a bit too subtle, and they don't kind of fit into the bigger picture. And I think it was a bit of all of the above. So firstly, we had to figure out how to pull it off and play them, and in my case, play and sing them. And then just where, I mean, the great thing, I guess, is if you're doing a record beginning to end, you're not trying to figure out where to shoehorn things. You just like, this is
Mm.
what it is, and we're just doing it this way. So there's a couple of moments where it goes from a raw to a whisper and back again on stage with the kind of the song listing order. But yeah, it's actually been a really good challenge because usually you're just thinking, oh, I wonder how the flow of the set's going to go, and we want to keep people's attention and keep them having a good time and engaged. And I don't want we don't want to drift things too far into self indulgence. But if you're doing a record, you just do the record,
Yeah.
and I like all the songs. So it's probably was actually the first album that I've even entertained doing beginning to end because there's some clunkers on some of the other records, and I don't want to play them.
And mate, the another aspect of that time when this album came up is that it was when piracy was really ramping up. Obviously, we had Napster around the 2000s, and it had just kept building and building. What was it like? Like, obviously, you didn't have a record label, but surely you would have seen, you know, was there any impact on your end, or like on your bottom line from dealing with piracy back in the day?
It was a great question, and I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. So that's a great question. The weirdly the opposite. So like I said, we had just been independent from the jump, right? And we'd used the money that we'd made off CD sales into just making more albums, but with the idea that the albums were kind of like a postcard for the show. So the show's always been the thing, because I look at it like an album is just a snapshot in time. It's never the definitive version of a song. I have no interest in going and playing note for note exact replica of what a song sounds like, because I don't think it honors a moment. I think there's a bit more of a kind of free form approach to playing every night. It's like how are we feeling about this tonight? So we try to react accordingly. So we make a record so we can go and play and honor those moments on stage. So it's weirdly, before NAFTA was kind of there, my whole angle was like, we should just give this shit away. If people
Yeah.
can't afford to buy it, let's just give it to them. And my solo records, all of them have been free since before there was streaming. It's like, here you go, just download it for free. Because I just feel like it came back around anyway. If you put your heart and soul into it, you gave it out, then people came to shows, and it just, what goes around comes around. And I feel like there was a whole bunch of people really holding very, very tightly, particularly like label acts, right? So labels used to invest a lot of money into polishing up these songs and making these studio versions where they could go and sell the product. And it was a whole different reality to what we had. We're just a bunch of people that play music, and we hit record and then we go on the road. So our perspective is probably different to their perspective, but I just didn't really, I felt like everybody came into our world. We were just doing that anyway. So I think my view on it's probably pretty radically different to a lot of other people in the industry, but that's how I felt at the time.
I love it. Matt, this has been Rad, man. Thank you very much for your time today, dude.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I first saw you at a Falls Festival with my brother. I'm going to say around 2000, the 2005 or whatever. And
The the Tassie one.
yeah, yeah. And I can remember watching a comedian, and then all of a sudden, throughout about halfway through his set, his crowd just doubles, and he looks down and he's like, "Who are you here for?" And they were like, "Oh, we're here to see the beautiful girls." He's like, "They're not even a bunch of beautiful girls. It's a bunch of ugly men."
Yeah, we got that right. Yeah, it's that those early days. Yeah, in particularly the Falls Fest that you're talking about. There was about 2 or 3 years there, particularly the first ones, where we were doing Vico and Tassie Falls. They were the first like real big moments where that happened, where the crowd just kind of materialized, and we were on these side stages. In Vico, we were in the tent, and then in Tassie, we were on a side stage, and
Mhm.
it was like the entire crowd came to those stages, and it was ridiculous. It was yeah, you think back and it's all a lot of it is blurry, but some things are just like sharp and those Falls Fest are definitely some of those memories.
Yeah, man. And that was, when we were growing up in Tassie, that was it. It's funny. A festival will come out and people will tear the lineup to pieces, go, lineup's not nearly as good as, half these bands are trash. And I grew up in
Yeah.
Tassie. We couldn't have given less of a stuff about who was on the lineup at Falls. You just went anyway.
Yeah, but you could get that like weirdly the that was the vibe. Like the crowd in Tassie was a different crowd to the Vico one because of probably that reason. So Tassie was just frothing for the whole thing. Like everybody was just in the best vibe and like celebrating. It was great.